Hey there, YouTube. How's it going? It's Gabe from Nexus Core here, and I'm going to be going over my very first deck profile for the upcoming One Piece card game. I am a little bit early with this if I want to be completely upfront with it. I'm still playtesting this deck. Some changes may come up. I'll talk over what I'm thinking about with some honorable mentions as I get there. And if I do end up making some edits, I'll either do a follow-up video or post in the comments below what comes up happening. But I wanted to get this deck profile out there because if you've watched my leader video or my purple video, you would know that I really like the blue-purple Kaido leader, so I've been doing my best to make a deck out of it. And I think I have something that, while I don't think I am 100% satisfied with it yet, I am satisfied enough that I want to present it to my audience. And if anybody out there is watching and wants to build a blue-purple Kaido deck and is having trouble coming up with some ideas, hopefully this gives you inspiration. And if you have your own recommendations, I would love to hear it because, again, I am still workshopping this list myself. Now, before we begin, the reason the screen looks like it does is because I'm going to be using the website Untap to be going over my deck profile because I don't have tabletop sim, nor do I have physical cards to go over. So I use the Untap website. It is a place where you could play the One Piece card game and a whole bunch of other card games for free. I am not sponsored because I have 8 subs at the time of recording, but it is a very useful website. There are quite a few One Piece players already, even though the game just officially came out in Japan this week at the time of recording with the Romance Dawn set. So a lot of people are already getting pretty excited, so I highly recommend, if you don't have tabletop sim and you want to try it out, to use the Untap website. And yeah, without further ado, I will just get right on into it. So as I said, we are going to be running the blue-purple Kaido as our leader, whose effect is Dawn 1 during your turn once per turn. When one of your opponent's characters is knocked out, you may add 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and set it as active. Now, the fact that it sets it as active is very, very integral to this deck, and it is very powerful. The amount of times where that 1 extra Dawn that I recycle is what comes in handy makes this very strong. Unfortunately, because it's a dual leader, it only has 4 life. But this deck, you're going to see as I go over more of the cards, is incredibly tanky, and you will be able to easily circumvent only having 4 life. Next, up to the big players with our 9-drop, we are only running 2 copies of Kaido, the start deck version specifically, whose effect is on play, Dawn -5. You can KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less, and this character gets rushed, so it can attack the turn you play it. Now, we're only running 2 because it is a very high investment. You are not going to be playing this until turn 4 at the absolute earliest, and even then you'd be lucky. With this, you're probably waiting until turn 5 no matter what. But even then, you don't want to do it too early because while the KO is very, very nice, you really are running this as a 10k beater with rush to surprise your opponent during a turn towards the end where they're not expecting it. Now, what's nice about this is because the Kaido leader sets the Dawn as active, once you hit 10 Dawn, you attach the 1 Dawn to blue-purple Kaido, then play the start deck Kaido, you use all the rest of your 9, you shuffle 5 back in, and then because you KO, you get to play 1 more Dawn. So while one of them had to be attached to the Kaido leader, you do effectively get 11 Dawn to play with during this turn. And there are a decent amount of 1-drop cards, and if anything, the 1-drop just might scare your opponent, or if you really want to win, just attach it to a Kaido and add 1,000 more power. Next, we are running 2 copies of each of the character kings, just because they fill different niches. There is the Romance Dawn SR, don't know why I was stuttering on that S, who is a 7/7, and on play you can go Dawn -2 to KO a character with 3 or less and another character with 2 or less, whereas the start deck king is a 6/7 who is on play -1 to KO 1/4 or less. The reason we're running 2 of each is because there are quite a few decks out there that want to do different things, and as far as I'm aware, we don't really know tournament structure yet. It seems as though, based on how long some games can last, it's going to be best of 1. I don't know if it's going to be best of 3, and being able to account for different scenarios I think is helpful. The Super R King being able to knock out 2 is quite nice, but I'm only running it at 2 because that 7 cost actually can hurt a bit, and there are a decent amount of cards that actually have 4 drop that you are going to want to hit off of the 6 drop king, which some examples you will see later on in this deck. And on top of that, there are quite a few situations and decks out there where you will really only have one target to hit anyways. That most decks I've seen are running a decent amount of 5+ drops, neither of which can be hit by either king. So running 2, I think I am very comfortable. If I had to pick, I would probably lean towards running the SR King, just because some decks like to run a lot of low to the ground blockers, and with the green-red law running around, being able to hit 2 of the thing when the leader requires 5 can definitely be helpful. But I'm not comfortable yet with this build where I want to take out the start deck king just yet. Next, we are moving on to 4 copies of Queen, a very key consistency card, who is a 5/6 with counter plus 1000. He is a blocker, and on play you can go Dawn -1 to draw 2 and discard 1. This is a +1, which in the early stages of the card game is actually quite surprisingly little. There are not that many +1s, and especially not in purple. As well, if you have a dead draw, you are able to get rid of it and get 2 potentially good things. And being able to either get, if you really need to get rid of the big drops in the early game, it's an option, or if it's the late game and you want to see your big drop next turn, that ability will help get you to it. And going Dawn -1 is not the worst thing in the world, and it is also a 6k blocker, a very, very, very good stat line. I didn't know it would kick me out, so I'm going to take an action really quick by tapping and untapping. One day I will buy a printer and get physical cards to make at least proxies with. This does bring up another thing a bit early, so I want to say part of why I'm doing this so early is because I wanted to get a video out there for a deck that I am having a huge blast with. But another thing is I kind of want to keep this as a time capsule for my own sake and for the audience that is here with me in the early stages of this game's development. I do not know what the game is going to look like in terms of meta or what a good quote-unquote build looks like. This deck could look completely different in a couple of weeks. I'm uploading it because I like what it looks like, but I could realize things, have matchups that make me realize things, and I want to keep this now a week into my YouTube career with the One Piece card game to see just how much better at the game I can get. I want to, a year or 2 years from now, look at this video and have the game be taking off and watch this video again and think, wow, I used to really suck at the game and how to build decks, and then just be able to think about how far I can come. And if anything, that could be a physical proof of what a journey somebody else can go on. If I am able to show how much better I get at this game, maybe that will help somebody realize that they can get better too. I started the Vanguard channel, if you know me from there, when I was in my senior year of high school, but I've been playing Vanguard since I was a freshman, so I'm not phenomenal at that game. I was a lot better and knew what I was doing a lot more after 4 years than I am with this game after playing for 1 week. So I want to use this as a kind of a time capsule for myself beyond just a simple deck profile. And also, as the channel grows and I put more into it, I kind of want to see how bad this video looks, not just in terms of deck quality, but in terms of, you know, editing and how it's actually presented. Hopefully I get physical cards that will make it look better, but that was a very long tangent, and I will never do any of those ever again, so you should be glad that you're watching this one. So moving on, we had just talked off from Queen. We have Boa Hancock, a card that I am loving in this deck. She's a 4-drop 5k power with a counter 1000. She is also another blocker after Queen, and her effect is you can give, while she has 1 Dawn attached, when attacking, or when blocking, you can draw if you have 5 or less in hand. The fact that it's either or for a single Dawn is very, very good, and much like I said with Queen, it is another +1 in this deck that will get you to either more defensive cards or your big number beaters. This is why I am comfortable running only 6 big drops, because the mana curve in this game can be kind of spooky. You don't want to like open a Kaido and a King by turn 2. That would not be good. So being able to keep that low but still consistently see them, and because of card draw, is very nice. And speaking of consistently seeing through card draw, next we have 4 copies of the start deck Dracula Mihawk, who, if you don't know, is a 4-drop 5k with counter 2000, which is phenomenal which are great stats, but what really takes it over the edge is how good this effect is. Dawn 1, when it's attacking, you can draw 2 and then discard 2. So while it is not a +1, being able to cycle is very, very helpful. Again, if it's some stage of the game where you have cards you don't want in your hand, you can just pitch them. If you have like additional copies of a card with no, like, that has no counter, or you don't want to have 2 copies of King when your opponent has a bunch of 5+s, then you can pitch them and get something potentially better, and it will help you see the big things that you do want to see. Mihawk is a phenomenal card. The fact that he has 2000 counter on top of all of this is frankly kind of wild. And next, I was going in descending order of cost, but I am going to skip over. I am running a small but mighty Santomaru package. So for those of you who don't know, Santomaru is a 3-drop 4k with counter 1000. Dawn 1 during the main phase. Once per turn, you can rest an additional 2 Dawn to search your deck for a Pacifista with 4 cost or less, and then shuffle after putting it into play directly. Now, this is very, very good. This is one of, if not the only, direct search effects beyond just check the top whatever of your deck. You know what you are getting, and also you are effectively cheating the cost. You are paying 2, 3 if you count attaching the Dawn to Santomaru to get a 4-drop. But again, you are getting but because one of it is the Dawn attached, you are getting a 4-drop and plus 1000 power to Santomaru if you want to attack. The Pacifista I am running is the not the start deck one. I am running the one from Romance Dawn, so 4-drop 5k. You can have more than 4 copies, and it has blocker. I'm running this one because, if you couldn't tell already, this is a very tanky deck that wants to accumulate its resources and build up defense that your opponent can't break through, while you slowly whittle your opponent down one by one, and then have a good big finish with the Kaido leader, or just overwhelming your opponent with a bunch of decently statted creatures. I don't want to run the other one because the other Pacifista, it doesn't have blocker, but it's a 6k, and I think the trade-off of losing 1000 power for the blocker ability is one worth making, and the fact that it is directly searchable off of Santomaru makes this very, very good. And because you're playing purple and you mana ram, I have had games where I'm able to search a Pacifista on turn 3. Because turn 1, if you are getting your 2 Dawn, turn 2, you can just play Santomaru and keep 1 Dawn open for whatever reason, and then the next turn you attach it and you're good to go. You are able to search by turn 3, and that's quite good to get a free 5k blocker by turn 3. And you don't even need to be attacking, so unless you're playing purple or your opponent has a way of resting it, you can just keep Santomaru untapped and then just keep using its ability to filter out all of the Pacifistas. And even though the Pacifista doesn't have any shield in counter form, it's not bad stats because it's still a 5k blocker, and it's also kind of decent discard fodder for Mihawk, and I'm only running 4 because I feel like that's all you really need. There's not that much deck space, and I think more would kind of get a bit clunky, especially because you can only run the 4 Santomaru. And really, if you're able to search out 3 or even 2, you are already in such a good position. I doubt you're going to be in that much of a risk anyways. So I really like this package. I think it adds a lot to the deck. This is one of the slots I'm the most unsure about. I do love Sasaki, though, from Romance Dawn, so his effect is you can pay 3, 4k, and counter 2 to play him, and his effect is Dawn 1 on attack, discard a card to get a card from your Dawn deck and rest it. The reason I'm considering taking this out is because if I played ulti, uh, from Romance Dawn, who, if you don't know, that's the first honorable mention, is on. It's a 2 drop with 3k, and it's on play. You can pay one more to get a Dawn and rest it. Part of why I'm running Sasaki now is the potential to use it multiple times, and it has 2000 counter, which is quite good, whereas ulti doesn't have that. And Sasaki, because you're giving it a Dawn, is a 5k hitter, so it's well statted, whereas ulti would kind of just be sitting there. The reason I'm considering running ulti is, while this deck can draw, the discard from Sasaki isn't always great, but what makes ulti good is because her ability in total costs 3, because it's 2 to play her and 1 to actually use the effect. You could make Santomaru live turn 3 even if you're going first. Turn 1 you get 1 Dawn and do nothing. Turn 2, attack with Kaido, play ulti for 2, and then use ulti's effect to get you the 4th Dawn, because you would be at 3 at that turn. Next turn you go up to 6, play Santomaru for 3, give Santomaru a Dawn for 4, tap 2 for the 6 total to get the Pacifista out. And while of course I think Sasaki, by virtue of having the counter, is better more consistently, I don't know how much. The part of why I'm running Sasaki is ulti only is really better IMO in the case of you are going first and you open ulti and Santomaru. In that case, it's great. In most other situations, I feel like the 2k defense from Sasaki is better, but again, a thing that can change in the deck. Next is the start deck Who's who's a 3k hitter for 3 drop, and his play is on his effect is on play Dawn -1 to KO one of your opponent's characters with 3 or less. This is very nice when you're going second, because if your opponent's going first, they're likely not going to play something turn 1, but even if they do, doesn't matter, but they'll likely play something turn 2. So if you're going second, you have 4 Dawn, give 1 to Kaido, you got 3 left, pay 3 to play the Who's Who, return 1 to knock out whatever they have, and then Kaido leader's effect will kick in to get you 1 Dawn untapped to either use or bluff your opponent for a potential, or just make Kaido bigger if you really want to hit for 7k. So Who's Who is, and also the fact that he has trigger just to play this card for fun interruption if you get the trigger. I really do like the Who's Who in the deck. And the last creature is the start deck Trafalgar Law, who is a 1/1 blocker. I am running it because it's incredibly low to the ground. The lowest to the ground purple blocker is the Black Maria, that is a 2/2. I think just being able to have a blocker whose only purpose is to block at 1 is far more important than any 1 extra K, because who cares about Black Maria's 2k? Being able to, if you go first, play this is good, and it's again another blocker. We are not even at the events, and we have 4, 8, 12, 16 blockers. I told you this deck was tanky. And next is up to the events. We have the Love Beam, who is counter your leader or one of your characters for 2 cost, gets 4k during the battle, and if you have 3 or less in hand, you can draw 1. What's nice is if you have 4 exactly, when you play this, because it's not in your hand as you cast it, you will have the 3, so you could just stay from 4 to 4. So that's very nice. And it's again, you can draw, but the grind games, you can run out of resources, so you may find yourself, especially after guarding, running out of cards to protect yourself with. So I have definitely found myself in situations where the draw does find itself helpful, and even if the draw doesn't come up, it's a 2 cost for 4. It's a cost 2 for 4k power. Yeah, a lot of like 2 costs tend to have another effect on top of it, but it's still 4k power in the mana ramp deck, so this isn't the worst thing. Purple kind of doesn't have that many great shields, and I think the potential draw off of this is pretty good. And as well, if you've noticed, there aren't a lot of actually Dawn minuses. Like, we have the big Kaido and the Kings and Queen and Queen. Who's Who I don't really count, because thanks to blue purple Kaido, he does break even. So being able to like run the purple one that ramps you when you have 2 or less life is not that necessary, because 1, this doesn't have a life requirement, and 2, the deck ramps well enough, but it doesn't do it so much so that you're going to want a lot of sinks, and I think the draw priority is a lot better. Next, we are running Overheat, who is another 2 cost that gives your leader 4k power during the battle. Then you can bounce a character with 3 or less to their owner's hand. And Trigger, you can bounce a character with 4 or less to their hand. I like it because, again, it's a trigger that is a good for another version of the effect. It's a very good effect because it's another 2 drop for 4k, and because you can bounce something, you could potentially stop 2 of your attacks. A lot of the decks, again, are running 3 or less cards, even if you're, especially something like Zoro Rush or the Odin deck. So being able to hit the 2 things that a lot of people are thinking are going to be some of the better decks, this is a very good targeted card for those matchups, and it's good in general. I love Overheat. And rounding it up, we are running Blast Breath because it's for 1 cost, Dawn -1, you can give a character 4,000. Again, because the deck ramps fast, but you don't have a lot of Dawn minus as mana sinks, it's mostly just ramping for things like Santomaru or giving stuff to Hancock. You don't really worry about a couple of -1s or 2s here or there. So the fact that it is a 1 drop for 4,000 is really, really good. And if it's the late stages of the game where you have ramped out and you have all 10 or at least 9 out, using this doesn't matter because you are going to go or be at 10 the next turn regardless. So Blast Breath is an incredible card. So again, that was it. More changes may be expected. If you are running a purple Kaido deck, let me know what your deck looks like because I am genuinely interested. I would love to see what other people come up with. I want to see what people think about the Sasaki and ulti because I do want to emphasize I am not confident about this deck to say this is the way to build blue purple Kaido. I think this is a way, and it is a way that I think works very well. If you like a good defensive playstyle, which I do, this is great for that because again you have 4, 8, 12 events that give 4k, 4, 8, 12, 16 blockers, and 4, 8, 12 cards that give counter 2k, and 4, 8 cards, 12 that give counter 1k, and 8 that give counter 2k. So this is a very tanky deck that can absolutely last a while, and you can easily just slowly beat over your opponent's characters with decently statted characters as they are not really able to deal with your overwhelming defense. And then once you're ready to go for the kill, you have something like Kaido. So I'm not running the 10k Kaido because it's a 10 drop, and a board wipe can be nice, and it's a fun incidental thing when it comes up. Like if it works, if you pull off a board wipe, it'll feel good. You are not going to be pulling off a board wipe enough to justify running it. So I don't think Kaido is worth it until the game lets us have more than 10 Dawn. If we ever get to like a 15 or 20 Dawn cap, then maybe it'll be worth it. But because it still takes literally everything, I'm having minor hesitancies on the 9 drop Kaido, and it's 1 less, and you can at least recycle something off of the leader. But again, I've been talking long enough, and not even all of it was about the deck, so please, again, let me know what you think. Thank you for all of the support this early on. I'm so excited to see where both this channel, but more importantly, where this game goes. I want to see what everybody's decks look like, and if you ever get an Untapped account, I would love to see you on there and have a game. As you can see, my name is Blagoriel, so thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.